Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Stephen Minton. I am a neonatologist who's board certified in the United States. I have practiced newborn medicine for over 40 years. I have been the director of newborn intensive care unit at Utah Valley Hospital here in Provo, Utah in the United States for about 38 years. During that time, we've taken care of over 35,000 babies in our newborn intensive care unit. I'm sorry that I'm in the United States today because I had hoped to be able to travel to Uganda and meet with you all about the possibility of us joining efforts in trying to help improve the outcome of pregnancy and newborn babies in your country. One of my major interests in life has always been in global health, and I've traveled around the country, all the European countries, many countries in South America, Central America, in Asia, Russia, and I have a real interest in helping to bring user-friendly technologies that are inexpensive to help with improving care in third world countries. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today about an approach we've been using with newborn babies now for about 12 to 15 years. For the longest period of time, we would intubate sick babies at birth and put them on ventilators in order to improve their outcome. And we became very good at doing that. But it's very expensive and it requires a lot of technical skills, and it's not really transferable to rural areas of countries in Africa and Asia. It's actually not even good to do it in rural areas of the United States. And so we have been using a technique called early lung intervention. As you all know, the lung is full of fluid in utero, and at birth that lung is squeezed down, fluid comes out, the lung re-expands to the same volume it was when the baby was inside mother, but now it's filled with air. And the blood pressure in the lung goes down, blood changes its flow from a fetal circulation to a newborn circulation. The baby takes breaths and the lung opens up and the baby begins to oxygenate. About 10% of babies born require some help in going through the transition from inside to outside. About 1% require a pretty sophisticated resuscitation in order to help go through that transition. What we have found is by applying CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure, early on in the process after delivery, we're able to re-expand those lungs, and babies who used to go on ventilators and being in an intensive care unit for days and sometimes weeks at a time often can get through that transition in 1 or 2 hours and be breastfeeding instead of being in an intensive care unit. We have found about 70% of our babies who are late preterm babies can do that just by CPAP. In addition, some babies require some breaths, but usually for a short period of time. That's an additional 20%. So it's only about 10% of the babies who need to be helped breathe a longer period of time, who need help going into it. That's not 10% of all babies, but that's 10% of babies who show respiratory distress after birth. So one of the things one of my partners and I did was, because many of the ventilators we use in the United States require often tens of thousands of dollars. And the CPAP devices, that only do continuous positive airway pressure, require thousands of dollars. We worked with some students at Brigham Young University and subsequently have acquired that technology and formed a company that allow us to do an inexpensive, user-friendly device. And so our goal is to come over to Uganda, and I will be coming over in October, November, and I'd like to meet with you all, and we would like to give a few of the devices to you in order to be able to see what your thoughts are and if it helps your babies like it's helped our babies. We'll be at that time doing lectures if you have a desire for it, and setting up research projects with you, and helping to establish a program over there for the distribution of these devices. This is the machine that I just mentioned. It's called a Neolife machine, and it has the ability to do not only CPAP but also give breaths on top of it. This machine has its own battery, which has a life up to about 15 hours. It's got its own pump, and they're both self-contained inside of the machine. So you don't need to be able to hook it to any outside air tanks or anything for a source of air. It also has the ability to hook up oxygen to it, but you don't have to use oxygen. Many places in rural areas don't have oxygen source, and so you can run this just on air. And in fact, the most recent recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics is that our resuscitations, certainly on near-term and term babies, are done on room air anyway and not on oxygen. In fact, outcomes are worse if you use oxygen, unless the baby does not respond to the initial steps. And so it's very simple. You just turn it on down here where it says CPAP, and we get this continuous positive airway pressure. The baby, if you put a mask on its face, will then have to breathe out against this pressure, and that resistance will hold the lung open so that the baby can go through the transition significantly easier than it does if you don't do this. And so you can set that CPAP at 5, 6, 7, 8, and increments of 1 centimeter, all the way up to about 15 centimeters. We recommend about 8 centimeters. That's the one number that we have found that provides the greatest chance of the baby opening up. But you can adjust it if you need more pressure. More often use up to 10 centimeters. We don't resuscitate babies in the United States these days on oxygen unless they do not go through the transition very well, and you can't get the oxygen to come up with just holding the lung open. In fact, using oxygen is recommended against unless under the scenario that I mentioned. Now, that will resuscitate about 70% of the babies in the late preterm and term category. Sometimes, though, they have apneic episodes where they're not breathing very well, not effective breathing anyway. And so you want to give a few breaths. And this machine has the ability then to just turn it. And then, as you can see in the gauge, the baby is getting breaths on top. You can adjust that from a rate of 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, whatever you need in there. Over here, you've got pressure gauges. So you can adjust the peak inspiratory pressure. In many babies, we start at about 25 peak pressure over 6 to 8 centimeters of peak. But if the baby's chest is not moving after birth, we'll adjust that in 5 centimeter increments from 25 to 30 to 35 to even 40 centimeters. The vast majority of kids with that, the chest will move and we'll hear good breath sounds if we listen to the chest. And that helps another 20% of the kids go through the transition from inside to outside. This machine, as I mentioned, has a long battery life. And so if the baby is not going through the transition well, the baby has meconium or a congenital pneumonia or another anomaly that's not allowing the baby to go through transition very well, you can keep the baby on this machine and transport this baby to a hospital which has a higher level of care to take care of the baby. This machine, in fact, will also work at university settings on babies. It is not a computerized, sculptured waveform. It's got a certain inspiratory time and a certain expiratory time, and that combination gives us the rate. But for its price, it is a quite efficient, quite effective machine for supporting babies after birth and actually in the newborn period. As I mentioned earlier, I wish I was there. Our plan is to come to Uganda and to help you all. with your maternal and newborn medicine projects that you are instituting. I think it's great that you're meeting. When I come over in November, I'd love to be able to do a half-hour conference and talk about any of the topics that you're interested in. Doesn't have to be just respiratory. I have been doing research in multiple areas for a long period of time, and I'd love to be able to share that with you. I would like to develop some relationships even before I come over in November, so that we can begin planning and I can help you in identifying issues that we may want to help you with, or to just even to support and talk about. So we have some representatives over there. If you have an interest in that, then please let Margaret and the people over there know. And we maybe can begin to do some Skyping or some telehealth communications, or even just texting and emailing together before that time period, so we can establish some relationships. I've designed multiple newborn ICUs in the United States. I kind of know what requirement that they have for different development issues. And so I'm a resource that I would love to share with you. It's one of my goals in life, is to be able to help. So I'm looking forward to an opportunity of meeting you all. And so if I can be of any help before that time occurs, please feel free to contact me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Again, my name is Dr. Stephen Minton, M-I-N-T-O-N, and I look forward to meeting all of you.